want to dedicate this first episode of the Multi Schools Lowdown to all the NHS workers who are very busy saving lives and putting their lives at risk across the country. But also all the other people out there as well who are volunteering, who are keeping our schools, our supermarkets, our delivery service running, and are doing an amazing job to support everyone. We can't thank you enough, and you are incredible people and people that will be remembered forever in our history to doing such an amazing job in this crisis. Marketfield School. That's where it all began. Not only me and my understanding around children with SEN, but for the Multi Schools Council to be born. I'd been working there for a little while, and it was clear that the children who go to that school and who still go to the school are special. But special in the sense of they want to change the way they're seen by others, not just the term special that's branded about. So it was clear they could go and make a difference, and I wanted to support them to do that. And I'd worked since starting at Marketfield with a range of different children. So some children who may be autistic, blind, deaf, may have other areas of support needs. And it was clear that for those children to go into society and to be understood, there needed to be a better level of understanding. And that was not just me thinking that was the children telling me themselves. And my whole approach is all about making sure children and young people are listened to and they have their thoughts heard. Because if you look at any other industry in the world, an industry that relies on its customers. Now, schools are a much bigger and better place than just customers. But when I mean customers, I'm talking about the young people themselves. And the young people themselves, they're the ones that get the education. So it's only right they have a say in that education. Now, if things aren't right, if things aren't going well, they should be listened to. I was always a strong believer in that. It doesn't matter what age you are, if you feel you have a strong enough point about something, you should be able to make it. And I've always believed that. And so when I was asked by the head at Marketfield to run the school council, I was so pleased because it was right up my street. And within these school council meetings, the children told me about things they wanted to improve in school. But one particular girl called Charlie, she said that anything we do in school is brilliant, but if we're to make a real difference, then we need to connect with other schools. Unfortunately, sometimes children can go to special schools and they may have already been in a mainstream school and it hasn't worked out for whatever reason. They then go to a special school and their opportunities or their chances to collaborate and to be included with what we call mainstream society are limited. And eventually, these children have to leave school and go into society. So their limited chances of collaborating and mixing with other children throughout school then have a negative effect because they're not maybe quite sure on how to do this. But on the other side of the fence, the children who don't go to a special school don't understand the children that do. And that creates discrimination. That also creates an atmosphere that is not fair and really have a negative impact on those children. So what we did is we started the Multi Schools Council, and the Multi Schools Council was all about outreach and getting out to other schools. And we started with 4 schools in the local area and the local community, and we ran a sports event where the children from Marketfield School led the sports and the children from the mainstream schools competed. And it was great because unfortunately, any other event that I'd been to prior to that, it was always as if our children at the special schools were the ones who had to have things done for them, or they could never coach. And actually, looking at the progress that we've made now, we can see real examples of children coaching, of children speaking out, of children being the best they can be. And just because a child goes to a special school, it doesn't mean that they can't realise their potential. On the flip side, if a child has an SEN need, they shouldn't have to go to a special school to realise their potential. There has to be a balance. But we had to start changing the perception and the feeling out there. So we needed to get into the community. And what we did is we started multi-school meetings, which were meetings where children from mainstream schools and special schools would come together in the same room. And when I first initially came up with this idea, it was almost as if the other schools looked at me like, what? Children from special schools and mainstream schools sitting in the same room, like it couldn't be done. We went and did it, and we got the support of the local schools that we were involved with, plus a few more. And we started to give the children the power to discuss the things that they wanted to do to break down perceptions. And that is the real key point for everything that we do. There is no point adults sitting round a table and discussing what they think children should do or need without actually speaking to the children. And we haven't got that right completely yet. I think there's some people that are starting to get it, but still not. There might be some people who sit in their jobs or sit behind a desk and think they know better than the children themselves what they need. And that's not right. And that's never right. No level of experience can take away a child's views and how that child feels. That child is the number one advocate for that child. And it's really important that we got that across. So we held these multi-school meetings, and the children themselves, they spoke about things and ways to break down perceptions, and we ran from that community fairs, which obviously generated a bit of money. We held talent shows where children from mainstream and special schools performed on the same stage, and we ran art projects again where children from special schools and mainstream schools came together. They produced pieces of art and we put them into a local art gallery. And the whole message from those pieces of art was to challenge people's perceptions around disabilities. And these were all ideas that came from the young people themselves. And I'm telling you now, if a group of adults had spent 5 days solid sitting down, thinking of ideas and events they could run, they would not have come up with the ideas that the children did. The children are always the ones that come up with the better ideas because, quite simply, there's no prejudgment going on. They are more willing to talk about the ideas and they're more willing to speak out. But that is all about the environment you create. If you create an environment where children feel comfortable to speak, then you'll be amazed with the things that they come up with. And so from going out into the community and running these events, we then looked to start increasing the number of schools we had involved. And we managed to start spreading all over Essex. So Marketfield School is based in the north of Essex. We then started to reach the mid, and it slowly trickled down into the south and west, and what some people called the waterfall effect. And mainly, most schools were able to grasp what we were trying to do, and they wanted to get on board. In my experience of recruiting schools and telling them why it's important for us to break down perceptions and also teach around areas of SEN within schools and build understanding, in my experience, I've only had one school that has said they don't want to be involved. Some schools we haven't managed to get to yet, and they may not be aware of us, which is why they're not involved, but only one out of 315. That one particular school, the head teacher said it was personal. He said it was a personal reason that they didn't want to get involved, but every other school has wanted to. Sometimes schools have said to us that they can't because there's too much pressure on the curriculum and they can't maybe release the children for the things that we want to do. So the projects that we want them to get involved with or the meetings that they come to. But for me, we hold 3 meetings across the academic year, so once a term. If schools cannot find time to allow their pupils a voice and a voice within a collaborative environment once a term, and we're talking an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours and a half with the journey time that's included. If schools can't find enough time for those pupils to be listened to and released, then schools are getting it wrong, because ultimately we're there for the children and we are there for all children, no matter of their ability. And actually, by getting involved in something like this, gives ideas to schools as well about how they can become more inclusive, because the children tell them how they can become more inclusive. And that is the real positive of being involved in the Multi-Schools Council. So we knew we needed to include more schools. And by September 2019, we went from 4 schools initially. And by September 2019, we had 90 schools signed up. So we were obviously getting there. One of the ways that we raised awareness, especially in 2019, is we did a big walk. Now, the walk, again, everything we do, I just want to really emphasize on this, everything we do comes from the young people. So we ask the young people, what can we do to break down perceptions, or what do we need to do to raise more awareness? So the walk, basically there are a range of special schools across Essex. And one of the big misconceptions out there is that all special schools are exactly the same, when actually they're completely different and they work in completely different ways. So what we decided to do, or what the children wanted us to do, was to visit each of these special schools, a bit of a roadshow. And then alongside that, we spoke about ways that we could raise money, and children were telling us, why don't we do a massive walk, or why don't we do a marathon? So we combined the idea of going to these special schools and raising awareness and doing some sort of big walk. So we did. What we decided to do is that we would visit every special school in Essex within a week. Once I'd done my research, I found out there was 18 special schools that we were going to visit. So these are special schools that are supported by Essex County Council, and they are spread all over. And we worked out that it would just about be able to fit it in from a Monday to a Friday with some early and late finishes. Important we had the support of other people. And I remember sitting in meetings before this, and I had adults telling me, you won't do this. There is no way you can walk it was over 5 marathons in 5 days and include children and visit all the schools and raise awareness. When people tell me that we can't do something, it inspires me further. And the fact that we had the children's support and the children saying, yes, we can do it, that spurred us on. So we decided, okay, we will do it. So in July of 2019, we did exactly what we said we were going to. And we walked to 18 special schools all over Essex. And we highlighted, I hope, the difference in schools. And it also raised awareness to the other schools that weren't involved in the Multi-Schools Council to get on board. And by doing this, we also raised money. So we raised over £8,000 that could then go towards enhancing the Multi-Schools Council and following up on more of the ideas that the young people wanted to see happen. It also then gave us the opportunity to speak to our local authority. So prior to that, back in 2017, Essex County Council had got on board with what we were doing, and they decided to second me for 1 day a week to grow the multi-schools. And that was a big factor in being able to recruit more schools and grow the level of projects. But actually, we realised that if we were to go and make a bigger difference, we needed their full-time commitment. We needed them to either second myself or someone else to really embed the ideas of the young people. Because the young people were telling us we needed to get into schools. We needed to spread our messages further. It needed to be more current. It needed to be on the curriculums of schools. And when I say it needs to be on the curriculum of schools, I mean awareness and understanding of SEND. So we went back to our local authority and we said, it's brilliant you've supported us for the last 2 years for 1 day a week. We want 5 days a week. So what we did is we had to then set the Multi-Schools Council up as a CIC, which is a community interest company. And the reason we did this is so that we could also apply for pots of funding that could back up the Multi-Schools Council, because Essex, like every local authority, is not always funded brilliantly. They were only able to fund a certain number of days, and other groups within Essex County Council also helped contribute. And we then have gone on and looked at getting our own funding, and we've been able to top that up. I have to also mention that Marketfield School were brilliant in that, because we hadn't secured the full amount of funding that we needed for myself to be seconded, but they gave us a flexibility to be able to go and find that funding. So it was a bit of a jump in the dark, if I'm honest, but sometimes when you believe in what you're doing, you just have to go and grab it, even if not everything around it seems secure. So what did that mean? It gave us the opportunity to go and get into classrooms. Some of the things the young people want us to deliver, we were able to go and do. So we were able to start delivering our autism awareness program, which basically gives young people more awareness about the term autism. It enabled us to go and deliver SEN assemblies. So we went into schools and we started talking in assembly about different areas of SEN, and again, breaking down perceptions. Some of the most brilliant things have been from those assemblies. We've had young people stand up, put their hands up, tell everybody, their whole school, and this is secondary and primary, their area of need or what makes them different, and be proud of that. And that's what the Multi-Schools is trying to do, promote understanding, and then understanding can lead to better inclusion. Inclusion can then make children feel empowered. Those children can then realise their potentials in whatever school they go to. And I will re-emphasize that message I said at the start. The right education for a child, or for a child with special educational needs, should not just be at a special school. Sometimes, and quite rightly, those children need a special school place, but not every child. And actually, sometimes it can be too easy for schools to say that because they don't have the understanding. But actually, sometimes they could spend a bit of time building that understanding. And we're helping, I hope, to do that. One of the other key areas that the young people identified was mental health. So we started to put together a mental health program. And again, this was back in 2017. So it took us 2 years to develop. And we spoke with organisations such as Mental Health First Aid England and other groups as well. But most importantly, the young people. And the young people were telling us that in school, there wasn't enough work around resilience and what helps people to feel resilient, because they understood that challenging and difficult times can happen to anybody. Obviously, they're happening to all of us right now. I speak to you while we're in lockdown. And actually, resilience is something that everybody needs. And if we could teach that in schools, they felt that actually that would support people's mental health better moving forward. So we put together a program that was designed in collaboration with young people that we've started to deliver. And it's a 6-week program where we work on different areas of resilience. And I was really pleased that the North Clinical Commissioning Group for Essex supported that further. They funded it, which means we're able to extend that work past this academic year. And I'm hopeful that other areas of Essex will see what's going on in the north of Essex with the mental health work, and we'll be able to expand that across the county. So obviously, it's been myself driving the Multi-Schools Council with the young people and their views, and now the support of Essex. Part of our plan for the future now is to be able, firstly, to get every school in Essex to sign up to the Multi-Schools Council. And currently we've got 315 schools who are now engaged. And we hope within 4 years, every school in Essex will be involved. What we need to do as well is embed everything that we're currently doing. Firstly, the heart of it will always be listening to young people and getting their views, and then build upon the projects like the Autism Awareness, the SEND Assemblies, and the Resilience Programme that we've started, and get it into people's roles within the local authority. And we're having discussions right now at this moment about what that might look like. And I hope even by the end of season 1 of this podcast that I might be able to give an update, and if not, certainly season 2. And obviously this podcast is part of our development as well. We want people to listen to the things that we're doing, most importantly the young people, and you'll hear throughout the next weeks people who are involved directly with the Multi-Schools Council, both children and adults, and they'll give their views and perspective on why this type of work is important. And if we can get it right in Essex, and when I say get it right, what I mean is be able to start listening to young people and give them a voice and a platform so that services can be designed around their thoughts and their feelings. And hopefully, eventually, it's a long road, but hopefully provision within all types of schools will improve and will be more inclusive, not just say they're inclusive, actually go and do it. Then Essex could be a real place of good practice for other local authorities to look at. And so part of our development plan is to contact the Department for Education throughout this next academic year and to try and show them what we're doing and to get their support to branch the multi-schools out further. And we already have 2 strands within Hertfordshire. We have a strand in Norfolk. We also have a strand in Thurrock and Southend. And what we want to try and do is build these areas up and eventually have a real powerful forum of young people and good practice and projects that we're running that have been designed and led by young people so that nobody can ignore it. And eventually, who knows, we might be able to spread our work all across England so that people fully understand the different areas of SEN and the things that can be put in place to support their needs so that every child in our education system can eventually reach their potential, not just go into a school and feel like they don't fit in. It should be the school's job to make the children fit in. And I firmly believe that. And I believe by the Department for Education's support and other people's support, we could achieve that. Nobody thought that we could start a multi-schools council in the first place. I was asked by some professionals, some people I even worked with, why have you set this up? Who asked you to do that? Nobody asked me to do it. The only people that did were the young people. The young people needed it. And for me, that's enough. We don't need an adult telling us, well, actually, you should be doing this. The young people are the people that should always drive it. And I would say to those people who doubted us, just look at what the young people have achieved. Nobody said or nobody believed that we could do our walk. And we managed to walk 5 marathons in 5 days. And probably nobody believed that we would get the number of schools that we've now got involved. And when I sit and say every school in Essex, there'll be people that doubt us then. When I say we want to spread our work all over the country, people will doubt us then. And only by your support and raising awareness and continuing to break down perceptions will we get there. But I believe that we will get there. So I hope that just by listening to this podcast, I've tried to keep it to the point as much as I can. We've covered so much in the last few years, and this is just another point of our journey. And I would encourage you all to keep sharing our posts, to getting behind what the Multi-Schools Council is trying to achieve. But most importantly, to listen to the young people and to support their views and to enhance their voices, because they are our futures and they are the ones that will drive this forward. Doesn't matter who's going to be sitting behind this microphone, they will share the same level of importance as the next person. And it's important that we keep this going, we make it sustainable, we ensure that every child can have their needs met. And eventually on the national curriculum, there will be understanding around SEND, every area of special educational needs.
Everyone is different and special in their own way. We should be including everyone, so let's start today.